Captain, we have them! We've established Transporter Lock, the Star Trek Discovery podcast. Join Ken and Sabriel each week as they explore strange new episodes, seek out new plots and new characters, and boldly go where no podcast has gone before.
Hello and welcome to Transporter Lock episode number 92 for Sunday, February 20th, 2022. I'm your co-host, Chief Engineer Ken Gagney, and you'll never guess who's joining me.
I don't know. Oh, wait, no, you're not asking me. You're asking the audience who can't hear us. Captain Sabriel Maston, hi.
That is the correct answer. You win. Hello, welcome.
The die is cast, Ken.
Oh my gosh. So it is, and it's what, Snake Eyes?
No, you got natural 20. But I bring it up because we are crossing the point of no return today.
Yes. This is Discovery, Season 4, Episode 9, Rubicon. And for those who don't know, the Rubicon was a river that was crossed during a war, and once you cross it, you can't go back. You are committed to the war.
Caesar.
Yes. I first learned about the Rubicon from a issue of the comic book Y, The Last Man, which was recently turned into a canceled TV series. And at one point, the main character says to his sister, "You've crossed the Rubicon," and they're at like a life and death situation, and they're at odds, and like one has a gun pointed at the other, and the sister's like, "Do you even know what that means?" and the brother's like, "That's besides the point," and she's like, "You don't, do you?"
I first learned about the Rubicon in DS9. It was one of their shuttles or runabouts.
Oh, you're right. The USS Rubicon from the DS9 episode Family Business and A Session and One Little Ship. Neat.
Yeah. And the Reckoning was going on. I just pulled it up too, so I can sound like I remember those episode names.
Thank you, Memory Alpha. That's all Transporter Lock is us reading wiki pages.
Yes. Anyway.
Oh no, they're on to us. Okay, so we're here to talk about, as I said, Season 4, Episode 9, Rubicon. So this is kind of what I thought the last episode would be about. You'll recall I mentioned that, I thought that Book and Tarkin would, or Tarka would just go hide in an asteroid and Discovery would have to go find them. That's exactly what happened in this episode.
Here, I've been kind of doing like, do you have a one-sentence review?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Of this episode?
Yeah. And then we'll talk about it.
A review or a summary?
No, a review. Like, when you walked away, when credits started rolling, how did you feel? Like a one sentence.
If I refer to the direction and the decisions made in the episode, my review would be disappointed but not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to refer to the quality of the episode as a viewer, I would say satisfied.
All right, that was 3 or 4 sentences, but all right, you got there.
Granted, technically, satisfied is not a sentence because there's no verb.
Much satisfied. There you go. It's not a verb either, but there you go.
And also, you couldn't hear my semicolons. That actually was.
Oh yeah, that does change things.
Emphatic period.
Mine was, neat.
Also not a sentence, but okay.
Okay, if you want to get semantics, what was your feeling? There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, this is what you thought was going to happen last week. The way Discovery goes, this is in past seasons. This would have been like the next to last episode.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm glad we got this out of the way.
Out of the way.
Yep, we had to have this tension, so now we can go on to the next thing of meeting 10C, who or whatever they are.
I need to actually back up a bit, and there's something like, I think I saw this in a previous season of Discovery, but it was so rare that I was still surprised when I saw it in this episode. Does the Federation now have cloaking devices?
I wrote a list of things that surprised me on this episode, and that one was I forgot they installed a cloaking device. They used it with in episode Su'Kal last season. That was it.
Oh! So when they were orbiting the dilithium plant and didn't want to get caught by Osiris's ship.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. I feel like I need to go rewatch that because
I forgot.
When it happened, I was like, yeah.
I looked it up because I was like, that sounds familiar. Brian entirely forgot.
Well, so little of the last 2 seasons of Discovery have been about conflict with external alien races, like the Klingons or the Cardassians or the Romulans.
Yeah.
And that is normally where you see cloaking devices in use. So when you're talking about like internal tension, like when Burnham goes to talk to President Trillick, there's not going to be the use of a cloaking device.
Right.
Like, surprise, President, didn't see me coming.
I don't know.
I get
They do seem to do that with the way Commander Non showed up. I mean, she beamed in, but she obviously heard Vance, so maybe she just had a cloaking device.
Unfortunately, I had her appearance spoiled for me by Twitter.
I didn't. Oh, but you waited a few days to watch, didn't you?
I did. As I mentioned on Twitter last week, I took a page from your book and I made watching Discovery part of my morning routine, and it was delightful, and I should do that from now on.
And then you didn't.
I had some scheduling conflicts, and unfortunately that broadened the window for spoilers.
Oh, bummer. I mean,
yeah.
But you got to see how it happened.
Yeah, and should we talk about Non? Is that where we are?
Well, sure, we're here. Let's talk about Non. Cool. The person, not the food.
So a garlic naan, Peshwari naan.
Yes.
Peshwari is my favorite. Anyway, so I feel like a lot happened to her since we last saw her, and I'm not quite sure I understood all of it.
Okay. Is there anything that stood out that you're confused, or you want me just to spill the whole, or talk about it?
Well, I kind of thought that her position on the seed ship was much longer term than it was, and it seems like she did a shift and then was relieved.
If you go, I'm working backwards. I suspect it was supposed to be longer because, or they thought it would be longer because warp travel wasn't a thing, but all of a sudden warp travel was a thing again. You know what I mean. And so it was faster. Then she got home. Then she's like, "All right, I basically do a absolute candor myself, apparently, and I can't do that with the people at home. Back to Starfleet because they know I'm from the past." She just basically didn't want to connect with people. She's like, "I haven't been to this family. This family hasn't known me ever. It's been 900 years. This is a little awkward for me. I'm going back to work."
But she also couldn't tell Discovery she was back in Starfleet?
Yeah, because she was doing secret missions on the borders of Federation space, apparently. But Michael could tell because she read the reports, she said.
Also, I thought it odd that when she went back to her homeworld to find her family, she didn't go to their place of residence. She tracked them down to a social outing in a park. That's creepy.
No, she went. I think she meant she was there, and they came to. I mean, I don't think it was so much creepy as she went someplace familiar, and the family was still doing it after all these hundreds of years.
I suppose. I'm glad that she is coming to terms with some middle ground and that maybe she will reconnect with her family. I'm reminded of that awesome episode, well, I thought it was awesome, an early episode of TNG where they first encountered the Romulans and they had those cryogenically frozen people from the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
They found their great-great-grandchildren and well, actually, that reminds me. Non said that she couldn't tell her family she was from the past. Why is that?
Probably something season 3 related that I've forgotten about, but also I think they were I don't know.
Because I appreciate at the end of season 2 that Discovery was wiped from the historical records, but that's clearly not enforceable with Discovery now being part of the fleet.
Yeah, I mean, and what are they going to do? Tell someone to go back in time and tell them, even though no one does that anymore? There's probably something we've forgotten that's kind of irrelevant. Not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, it's a minor point, and as I've said before, when these minor issues come up in Star Trek, it doesn't detract from my enjoyment, and I'm not trying to be focused on the minutia. I see it as sort of like a little puzzle to solve, and if there's no solution, that's fine. For example, maybe Non's mission on the seed ship was meant to be long-term, and the reason it was made short-term isn't just because Discovery or reinvented warp drive, but because they wanted her back on the show.
Yeah.
And they can come up with whatever reason they want, and that's fine because the ends justify the means.
Exactly.
Although, did you know? I mean, I had it spoiled for me. So, did you know who was going to be beaming in?
Nope.
Vance said, it's a familiar face.
I was who the heck is this going to be? I was like, all I could think of was Tilly. I'm like that, right. But I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then, I was like, David Cronenberg? Like, nope. Dr. Kovic? Like, that doesn't make any sense either. And then all of a sudden, Non's here.
Yeah, if I hadn't had it spoiled for me, I would have thought of Tilly as well. And I can't imagine Tilly overriding Burnham.
I can, but it would. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Well, especially with the potential reason for Non being there was that Burnham and Book were too close. I mean, Burnham and Tilly were roommates, and I don't think Tilly could excuse herself either.
I mean, to be honest, Non didn't do much here either.
Non carried herself as if there was no historical connection with Burnham, and I really appreciated that.
For me, like, that was one of my problems with this episode, which turned into, okay, it worked out, but Non didn't do her job.
You think that she should have given the command to fire?
I don't say I think, but basically that's what we were told she was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
She played the part of an interrupter, not an observer. You better do this. No, wait. Okay, you better do this. But 1 minute. You better do this. Michael. I mean, she didn't do her job. But I didn't say I was thinking that. She just didn't do what we were sold that she was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it worked out. The Book just had she's right. She kept pointing out Book's acts of aggression against Discovery and the Federation here. And she went with Michael's decision. It worked out until it didn't. But like I said, she just didn't do what we were told she was going to do.
But remember, during some of those moments when she was interrupting, including the point where she gave the firing instructions to Reese, we didn't get to see that she and Burnham had already had a call with Admiral Vance. And so she had that in her back pocket as well.
Yeah, I mean, we can call back to an unseen conversation is why she's waiting.
Right. I'm reminded of the TNG episode where they had the Romulan defector. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that he was actually a plant and he didn't even know it. And there were like 2 or 3 scenes where like Worf would say to Picard, "You have an incoming call from the Klingon High Council." And Picard said, "I'll take it in my ready room." And then we don't see the conversation. Mm-hmm. And you just kind of forget that it happens until the end when these Klingon ships decloak. I was like, oh, cool.
But that didn't play out here.
You don't think so?
If it were like all of a sudden Vance shows up on the SS Badassitude, that would have been worth it, but he didn't.
Well, I was really pleasantly surprised when Burnham said to Book, "I bring to you an offer backed by Vance and Trillick," which Rillick. Is that what?
No T.
Rillick?
Yeah.
I keep thinking she's. Oh, you know what? I keep confusing her with the Vulcan president.
To Anna. To Anna? To Rillick.
Yeah. Or just the fact that Vulcans begin with a T. President Rillick. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get that right. So nonetheless, I was pleasantly surprised when she went to Book and said, "Here's a plan that is backed by Vance and Rillick, which is that we will support your decision to attack the DMA with an isolytic weapon if you let us try it our way first."
Yeah.
Like that's on one hand surprising because isolytic weapons were banned by the Khmer Accords, but on the other hand, it's a great compromise because what alternative like that plan was brought to the Federation for voting. They had legitimately considered it.
I like that too. I mean, like, okay, cool. All right, we had a conversation that we didn't need to hear, but it came out. That part, it made sense. I liked it too. Oh, You and I had a conversation on the Twitter, but should we talk about isolytic weapons real quick?
Sure.
Because you had mentioned like you had read something where someone's like the isolytic weapon was a reference to insurrection.
Yeah, and I had forgotten that isolytic weapons had been used before. I only saw insurrection once, and it didn't leave an impression.
Yeah, I mean, the isolytic weapon, for anyone else who would like to refresh without going to Memory Alpha, is in the part of insurrection near the end when, around the time period of Riker took the joystick out of the floor and was flying around the Enterprise E. Wasn't that exact moment, but it was around that time period. The Sona are launching an isolytic weapon, and they're like, "I thought that was banned," and they don't. We don't know how they work very well. That's why they were banned, because it's going to destroy subspace around the area. similar to the Omega weapon, but Omega particle, but much smaller scale, extremely small scale. But yeah, that was a mention to Insurrection. I guess it's technically a reference to Insurrection, this whole isolytic thing. But yeah, damages subspace. Getting excited, I was starting to talk too fast.
I gotta wonder if the Khitomer Accords were even still in place 900 years later, because part of that was that the Federation would not pursue cloaking technology, which they are. So are isolytic weapons still banned?
There's it sounds like yes, but there's also 900 years of cloaking technology discussions.
Yeah, maybe there were revisions and amendments to the Accords.
When there's no more Romulus.
True. Were the Khitomer Accords with just Romulus or also Klingons?
They're there too, but I think they were making the deal with the Romulans.
Yeah. And we haven't seen Klingons in this century yet, have we?
No, which I've been waiting for. I hope they make them more TNG-like. Anyway.
So yeah, let's talk about that isolytic weapon. Were you surprised when the weapon got launched?
All right, so yes and no. I was annoyed at how many chances Michael gave Book in because I was like, okay, the show's not going to take any chances and kill him. I didn't want them to, but I'm like, come on. We just keep seeing this over and over again. Like, wait, don't do it. Wait, don't do it. And I was kind of annoyed at that. And then, all right, cool. We're gonna do the traditional Star Trek thing of, we talked you down. Cool. And then, Ruan smashes the button anyway and launches it. I was expecting that. What did surprise me was that there was no technobabble solution to stop it before it blew up. That surprised me. And it went off.
Yeah, I was not surprised by Ruan Tarka. Of course he had a backup plan, just like he installed a defense mechanism on the ship without Book knowing. But I'm nonetheless surprised, or disappointed rather, that Ruan Tarka launched a full spread of quantum torpedoes at the Discovery against Book's advice. Book should have locked him out of such command functions at that point, because he had demonstrated a proclivity to violating orders.
The only thing I can do is chalk that up to either one, not thinking clearly, or two, not enough time, because you are absolutely right.
On the other hand, though, if Tarka was capable of installing defense mechanisms without Book knowing, then he probably had his own way around the command function.
Tarka has been shown to be a genius and even stole like Vance's credit, or password.
His ID.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so it may not be Book's fault. Even if he had done something, which I don't think he did, it might not have mattered.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well.
Tarka this episode. Did your feelings change about him at all, or improve, or do you appreciate this character? Like is a strong word, but do you have any appreciation of this character you didn't have before? Like him less?
Well, I like that he backed up Book when Book tried to save the shuttle crew.
Mm-hmm.
However, Tarka also knows that if he hadn't done that, he would have lost Book as an ally. So I think he was still self-serving his own ends at that point. I also think that he's an idiot because he said this plan was 10 years in the making, and I know that the DMA itself is only in the last year or so. I recognize that this is a late addition to his plan. Still, a person of his genius never accounted for the possibility that the power source wasn't in the DMA?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he seemed utterly surprised by that.
Not much ever catches Ruan Tarka off guard, and this one caught him off guard. After this episode, I actually liked him more.
What? Why?
Not as in I like this person, as I like this character. So, you brought it up. The first thing that really made me appreciate the character more is that when he added the books thing where he said, I added security. Don't worry about it. He actually tried to help break the shuttle free, and he genuinely seemed sorry about it. Whether it was or not, but to me, he actually genuinely seemed sorry. He's like, okay, there was none of this little snark. He's like, you're right. He started working on a solution immediately. And near the end of the episode, when he was planning to launch the weapon anyway, he was sitting here talking to Book about game theory and expected utility. And he was talking slower, and you could see the way the camera panned. He was watching the view screen to make sure Michael was away and safe before he pressed that button. And you could say why he did that, either because he was concerned about Michael, which I think it's probably, if he was, it was on the lower scale, but more like, if I kill Michael, I will lose Book forever. But still, he did wait. I appreciated that. And he didn't seem like the stereotypical Hollywood raving lunatic mad scientist this episode, like he has in past episodes. So I gained new appreciation. Doesn't mean I like the guy. I just like the character.
Yes, he did seem more relatable this episode. I will give you that. But I still question his motivations. I don't know that he actually did care about anybody on the Discovery. Even you just said that he realized he would lose Book if he lost anybody on Discovery. So,
right.
Yeah.
And to your final point of he didn't see that coming, he devoted 10 years of his life to some kind of research around power. He gets a solution, he's so sure of himself. This is probably where we're going to see him, I don't know, they crumble, but finally listen. Because he's just always been so sure of himself the entire season when we talk to him or see him. And all of a sudden, he was shown to be wrong from an outside force, not a person that he knows, that he thinks are inferior to him, or anything like that. This outside force just showed him he was wrong about something about the universe, and now he can finally grow. He'll probably die by the end of the season.
Huh.
Actually, I would love a happy surprise if he actually got what he wanted. Not saying he deserves it. It's just not very Star Trek, and I would like to see that.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if he has to sacrifice himself, and that will be his final redemption.
I was talking to a good friend, Shar. It's I can see by the end of the season, before we watch this episode, of him and Book still working together, and he needs Book to do something, and Tarka makes the mistake of saying Kwijan or his family doesn't matter, and then Book says what, and then shoots him, or something like that. Doesn't side with him anymore.
Well, let me run this idea by you. I don't think it holds water, but it's something that occurred to me when I watched the episode. When he said that this was 10 years in the making, do you think that Tarka had anything to do with the DMA itself?
Oh, no. I don't think so. He was just trying to find alternate ways. He's been talking about it, how he's trying to find a way to get to this. Sounds like another universe. And this has just happened to be a convenient thing that showed up on his doorstep, almost literally.
So one thing that surprised me was that after the isolytic weapon went off and he couldn't find the power source, they didn't go back to the Federation. And maybe that's not surprising because they would just end up in the brig. But I got to wonder, what's their game plan now? Because Burnham no longer needs to pursue Book and Tarka. They can focus solely on First Contact. So I wonder what Book and Tarka's role in the rest of the season will be.
They will connect somehow, but for now it is, we got to talk about our feelings and what just happened. And so I'm looking forward to that.
You're looking forward to a talky episode all about squishy feelings?
I'm looking forward to those two talking about what happened here.
Do you think there is the opportunity for them to reconcile?
It's going to be rough, but I'm excited to see the journey to get there. If they ever do. I know it doesn't specifically answer your question, but I'm not a writer on the show. I think that it depends on what levels X or Y is going to go, right? And it makes you wonder if Star Trek will go that way. And now, what is the next step? Tarka suddenly, everything he's worked for in the last 10 years just blew up in his face, or unblew up in his face. And so, but he did it anyway. I mean, maybe 10C, who or whatever they are, will want some justice.
Yeah, I gotta wonder what their goals are now, what drives them, because Tarka wanted a power source. He didn't get the power source, so what's he going to do? Go to the source? Go to C10 and say, I want your power? And for Book, he wanted to stop the DMA, and now he knows that he can't.
Yeah, at least here. So maybe
Right.
So that could mean he also goes into an emergency plan. I mean, some other way to do it on the other side of the galactic barrier. I'm not saying it's going to be easy or have a solution how that happens, but so at this point he either goes, oh crap, and thinks about things for a bit, or he gets even more solely focused, and no one can slow him down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. It's I cannot predict where these characters go from here.
Yeah, no, that one's a hard one because only because it cut so quickly at the end. We didn't have time to, in the universe, soak it in.
And what do you think of the fact that Burnham said, we have now made first contact?
Yeah, they showed that someone can stop this thing. And so they showed 10C that someone can stop this thing.
Not for long, though.
10C just put it back up, clearly. But okay, stop this thing as in they have the technology to slow this down for a minute. That might make them all of a sudden have a blip on 10C's radar, for good or bad. Maybe 10C will be like, wow, impressive, nice work, let's talk. I don't think so, because it's not very dramatic, but yeah. How about you?
It's possible. There are a couple possibilities running through my mind. One is that deploying a second DMA is trivial for a race of this caliber, of this advancement. And so the fact that we destroyed the DMA, we may see it as a view of aggression, and they might just see it as a minor annoyance. They're like, don't worry about it. We got 1 million of them. The other thing is that this may all be automated.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it was deployed to the exact same spot with no other communication or indication that they recognize this as a sign of aggression suggests to me that it's just like, oh, a robot fell off the tracks, we put it back on the tracks, and we just keep moving forward. No big deal.
Yeah, I kept thinking something. AI keeps coming into my head. It's also been a theme in Discovery, so I don't know if they're going to go to that again, but it keeps showing up in my head. But there's so many unknowns still. Heck, I saw an article this week saying, like, on Twitter Spaces, they revealed that... Oh, this is what the article said. This is not me spoiling anything. On Twitter Spaces, they said that 10C is not going to be anyone we've ever seen before. And I click on the article, it doesn't say that at all. It just said the Discovery people who ran the Spaces said they created they had a lot of fun creating something people have not seen before. They didn't say anything about who it is, so it still could be anyone. If it's someone in canon already, I can't wait to see who it is, or if it's something new.
I suspected somebody new.
It just seems like need a new antagonist, villain person. Get away from the known. And that's what we did to get to the future.
Yeah, and I also haven't seen any clues. Like when last season we saw the Guardian of Forever, there were clues as to who that was a whole episode before the big reveal. Whereas with this, I haven't seen any indication. Like, it would be silly if it turned out to be Q and they were like, we said it wasn't Q just to throw you off. And I was like, that's not going to make me a fan. Right.
Same here. So I am still very excited to see who it is, which is something Discovery has been poor about in the past. Just took it taking too long to get there, but I'm actually not feeling that yet this time still.
Well, on the other hand, I'm thinking about TNG. There were so many times when they encountered far, far more advanced races.
Mm-hmm.
And it only lasted one episode. Like, they encountered the alien race, and the alien race was like, oh, we're just here to exchange information with you because we're curious. And then at the end of the episode, Picard's like, the aliens, after exchanging information with us, returned us to our own space. It'll take our scientists decades to pour through all the information we got from them. And that's the end of it. I was like, at least now we actually get a whole season out of it.
That's the end of our show? Oh, what were they called? The Cytherians or something like that? The big Saruman type face that appeared on the bridge in early TNG and just killed one of the officers. And I'm going to estimate you need to kill about a third of your crew.
That's exactly what I'm thinking about. And also the episode where Barclay brought them to some far off galaxy using his brain.
Right. Or Enterprise. They came across a random station that just started fixing them for you for a price.
Right. And then they destroyed it and it started repairing itself after they left.
There's so many possibilities if they went for in-universe or existing canon already that it's just so difficult to speculate still.
Now, just because we've never seen this alien race, that doesn't mean it might not tie into something we've seen before. Like, for example, this could be the race that built the Borg. This could be the race that fixed Vidger. This could be the race that was spawned from the AI on the Enterprise D.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's the Kiliar.
Remind me who they are.
Beta Canon, who reclaimed the Borg.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which would not surprise me because I think that was Kristen Byers' baby, or she at least wrote for it, I think. So, Beta Canon, the book canon for anyone who doesn't know.
I feel like if that was the case here, we would have had some mention of the Borg in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. Unless they're, I think you are correct. Or some kind of mention of, like, could it be Borg? You know, like they did earlier in the season. Like, we don't think it's X, Y, or Z. Mm-hmm. Did they say Borg? And we've just forgotten? Because it's been a month or two? So. I don't think they did. Because I think you would have been very excited about that.
Yeah, and that would have either opened up or ruled out a lot of possibilities.
Yeah. The machine at the center of the DMA. A little 2 dodecahedrons or something like that, roughly. I didn't count the sides, so...
Right.
Polygons inside of each other. Wait, 3D polygon, is that the same thing? Anyway, they kind of reminded me of the Omega particle.
Oh,
the device used, the shape that they made come together. That could be very much intentional with the Boronite that we talked about last week. Yep. And I started rewatching Picard, I restarted my rewatch again, and that same side, polyhedral, there we go, was used in the splitting to represent 2 androids being made. Yeah. Okay. And heck, remember at the end of Picard, there was this weird AI being.
Yep.
That never got more, so that was really weird. Because we were like, at that time, we were like, all right, Discovery just did this, and you're doing it too.
But I also have to wonder, to what degree will they tie into anything that happened in the 900 years that Discovery jumped over?
Yeah.
Because, like, if the Borg show up and everybody in the audience watching Discovery is like, oh my god, it's the Borg, and Burnham's like, wait, who?
Sounds Swedish.
Exactly. Like, even the cloaking devices. Like, you and I just watched the TO episode Balance of Terror, which was, as far as I know, the first time the Federation had encountered a cloaking device. And that was 10 years after Discovery premiered.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot all about that. Wow.
So when Discovery arrives in the future and they outfit their ship with a cloaking device, Burnham should have been like, a what now?
Cloaking wasn't a mystery because they experienced it in Enterprise too. Ships and people who could cloak. So they knew of their existence.
But the first canonical appearance of cloaking, I think, was in Balance of Terror, and they did act like they had never seen it before.
Yeah.
Okay. But if I forget if it showed up in Enterprise, I'm sure it did because you said it did. I just don't remember how that is, or how they then say, oh, it was new to Kirk.
I mean, even when they brought the Borg to Enterprise, an episode I loved, the name Borg was never brought up. But they did reference that, what's his name?
From Cochrane?
Yes, thank you. Is that from Cochrane? Had mentioned some, like, cybernetic man, and everyone thought it was his drunken saying. So, like, some language can still be lost even when there's tech. And so, whatever. It wasn't even... We saw the cloaking device in Enterprise even before the Romulans showed up, so... it was a known quantity of space. It was just very high tech for them at the time, even if Kirk and Spock were surprised of its existence.
And now everybody has it.
Yeah. Last week I was talking a lot about Expanse.
Yes.
It did not occur to me. But 2 days later or so, I had an epiphany. I was like, oh my god, here I am talking about The Expanse, and I did not realize that the actor Sean Doyle, who plays Ruan Tarka, was in The Expanse for the first 2 seasons, or 2 seasons. Did not recognize him because he had a beard.
and that little emblem on his forehead.
Yes, a Ryzen emblem. And yesterday or Friday, I looked on my Twitter, I had a notification. Sean Doyle saw those tweets, and he liked them.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
I was like, oh man, he saw this. Okay, I just got a kick out of that. But yeah, I had to laugh at myself that I was talking about The Expanse and did not recognize the actor who was prominently in The Expanse. Was in the episodes I'm talking about. Did not recognize him because he had a beard.
Well, how long ago did you see those episodes?
A year, maybe.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, there's no excuse, Sabriel. Come on.
Nope. I just felt so silly.
A couple of minor characters had some moments in this episode. I gotta say, I was disappointed in Reese, who seems to side.
God. I hated these scenes.
Because?
They felt so awkward. We have not shown the camera just lingering on random conversations of the bridge crew in this manner, and like Saru walks by, and all of a sudden we stay and hold on to Reese talking to Nilsson, like, yeah, I think we should get him. Like, that was so awkward. And then they're on the shuttle again, Reese and Bryce, which I figured out why. I always had trouble figuring out the names of those two.
Spelled them the same.
They sound so close. And they did it again there. I'm like, this is so awkward. It felt so forced.
Well, I was disappointed not only that a Starfleet officer would side with Book. In hindsight, maybe I shouldn't be surprised given his backstory that he gave on the prison planet. But nonetheless, it's not his place to be disagreeing, especially while on a mission to do exactly the opposite of what he's espousing.
Yeah, the bridge, okay, one thing, you're just talking to Nilsson, having a little conversation, Saru interrupts you. But on the shuttle? Oh, it felt weird.
Yeah, I didn't need that. I mean, also, given how politically divided our own society is in this time period, I don't need to see that on the bridge as well. However, I did notice, okay, on one hand, Reese did say that he would comply with Nan's order, especially after Burnham told him to, so that's cool. But while he was looking at his vertical hollow display, I noticed that the text on it was written so that we, the viewers, could read it left to right, which is the opposite for him. So I can totally dance around that. I'm like, okay, it's holographic. It displays so that whoever's looking at it can read it. That's fine. But then Ruan Tarka, when he was searching for the power source for the DMA, and it said power source not found, it was written backwards so that he could see it, and the readers had to read it backwards.
Oh, see, it was a different operating system.
It must be. Like, one is Federation, the other's not. That's a good answer, actually. But I was like, come on, Star Trek, be consistent.
I gotta kick out of that too.
But the Spore Drive, the beta pilot test prototype, that's the word, that he stole, that's Starfleet technology, and it integrated with Book's ship just fine, so there must be some compatibility. So why would it vary on RTL or LTR text?
It was an SQL injection to get it to work.
Exactly, yeah. Although I did appreciate Burnham's point that they couldn't destroy Book's ship, not just because Book and Tarka were on there, not just because there was an isolytic weapon, but because there was a Spore prototype, and I had kind of forgotten about that. And also, and that reminds me, the action scene where, again, which I was expecting last week, where they were Spore driving around each other. Okay, cool.
Yep, I was going to bring that up too, that's why.
Really cool episode, or a scene. I really liked it. Secondly, though, you can't, as far as I know, predict where somebody is going to jump. So the fact that Book's ship jumped and Discovery started their jump before Book even finished appearing somewhere else, and they happen to appear in the right spot to block them. I found that hard to believe, or requiring a reaction time that even Stamets is incapable of.
All right. I'm going to get a word in edgewise here now.
Oh, come on, I go on rants. This is nothing new.
Because I wanted to say I loved that scene so much of playing jump and mouse chase. I thought that was so well done. I thought it was so cool. And if we want to get there, something Mycelial Network can tell where other people are appearing. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. However it worked, I thought it was awesome. I loved it so much.
No, I liked it too. There was actually one particular shot where as soon as Discovery leapt in, they immediately started firing right at Book ship. And I was like, that is impressive that you can show up that quickly and know the trajectory at which you need to fire your projectile. So, A, awesome action scene. B, I couldn't help but pause and ask, how did you do that?
Oh, I got an answer. Programmable matter fixes everything.
That's the answer to everything. They reverse the polarity of the mycelial network, and boom.
Exactly. I love that scene so much. Gosh, what am I gonna go to? We'll go to another thing first. But speaking of character moments, Saru and Ta'ana.
Oh my God, sir, you're being an idiot.
I love that so much. And the whole, I ship them. I'm totally in on it. Like her, since you can't meditate, maybe you should go for a walk. And there's a free hand right here. I thought that was sweet.
I was surprised that Saru almost seemed surprised by it when I thought that there had been mutual overtones toward each other for several episodes.
It wasn't surprised. It was as in, I can't believe this came out of nowhere, or surprised and like, she made the first move. And he's being a blushing idiot.
And I'm glad that somebody had the courage to tell him that.
I keep saying Ta'ana, it's Tarina.
See, we both get these things wrong.
I got it right, just not right. It's completely different.
Of course. My bad. Yes, Captain.
But I loved it.
Yes, so did I. I like where this is going. I'm surprised it's taking this long. But yeah, I think this is going to be cool once it actually comes to fruition. Also, we did see a little bit of Dr. Culber, and in that scene, I appreciated that he went on the away mission with the goal of talking down Book. He didn't get the chance, but I thought that was a wise choice on Burnham's part when she was assembling the away team.
Yes, I like that too. I don't think any of us thought it was going to be as dangerous as it was. I mean, we probably suspect something was going to go wrong, but I didn't see the whole programmable matter thing happening.
I mean, how often did we ever see Troy go on an away mission? Not that often, I recall.
When she needed to say something like, I sense this person who's yelling at you is mad at you.
That's true. Sometimes she went down when no hostility was expected, but if there was, if people are going on an away team with phasers because they expected to need them, Troy probably wasn't going to be there.
No, not unless she needed to be possessed by something.
Or she was just listening to really loud music in her head. Which reminds me, not of the loud music, but that away mission. So, okay, people can teleport from anywhere to anywhere. I get that. Maybe they don't even have a transporter room anymore. I don't know. But why was the shuttle crew beamed directly to the bridge?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you either. And all of a sudden, launching themselves at the floor too.
I mean, I will accept as an answer to my question, dramatic effect. That's fine. But I'm thinking about in-universe, when you want to send them, right to sickbay, or if you get a better signal, because remember, they had trouble locking on, maybe they would have a better signal from the transporter room. I don't know.
It could be one of those things where if you want to go for in-universe, it was the whole, quick, I need some kind of place that I know is safe right now. No one's on the bridge over there. Boop, 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 there.
But I can't help but think about how lonely O'Brien must be now. Nobody ever needs to go to him anymore.
I mentioned it before, but I miss the transporter room, and I miss having that moment of our person of the week appearing and leaving at the beginning and end of this episode. I love those scenes.
Yeah, it's a nice little moment where people get to introduce themselves, and in the case of Tashiara's sister, Data totally blowing her off.
Yeah, I miss those.
I mean, I got a slight tangent. Data blowing her off is one of the cruelest things I've ever seen in any episode of Star Trek, and I loved it.
So good. So good.
Okay. Anything about this episode?
Yeah, one more.
Let's hear it.
I loved the moment when it was on the bridge in the DMA cloud, and everyone it was telling Michael, you gotta do a thing, and you're paralyzed by indecision, and the camera pans slowly across the bridge of everyone looking at her and watching her, waiting for their orders. And her just indecision or worry or fear about what's the right decision after she was told that you have to kill Book. She's waiting, hoping someone has something to say. There's another way out. Thankfully, Stamets comes in and says, I've got another way out. But that moment, I love that shot so much. I loved it. It just felt like gut-wrenching.
If Stamets hadn't piped in when he did, I think Burnham would have given the order.
Yeah. I thought it was just so good. I love that so much. Kind of got chill just thinking about it here.
Yeah, the pan that really caught me was Detmer for some reason, because she, in my opinion, had no expectations on her face. She was just like, she wasn't hoping Burnham would say one thing or the other. She was just waiting to see what Burnham would say.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever Burnham said, Detmer was going to do it.
So good.
Yeah. Last thoughts?
No, it's 2 weeks in a row. I haven't got a chance to watch Ready Room yet, so I gotta catch up, see if there's any insights there. Can't wait to see what's going to happen to Book. If he's outside of Ruan, even outside of Tarka, how is he going to get through this? Because he sent that message to Michael at the beginning of the episode, like, I love you. But he knew that there was no middle ground. At least he thought there was none. Everyone thought there was no middle ground. They found some, even if it only lasted for a few minutes. I'm curious what this does to their relationship.
Everybody but Tarka found middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to specifically say if that came across. So I'm curious. I can't wait to see just the Book part of what comes next for him.
Yeah. In other Star Trek news, there's going to be some overlap because there are 4 more episodes of Discovery this season. And in the meantime, next week, March 3rd, which is a Thursday, which is when Discovery usually airs, we're also going to have the first episode of Picard Season 2.
Can you believe it's been 2 years since Picard aired?
Right? And these shows are going to be appearing on the same day, right?
I honestly haven't looked, so I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, so that's surprising. It's been a long time since we've had overlapping Star Trek, not since DS9 went off the air.
It's been a long time getting from there to here.
Oh my God. I was talking to somebody the other day about web development, and I asked her, do you ever buy the premium version of a free WordPress theme? And she said, like, I cut her off mid-sentence. She said, it's been a long time. And I said, but my time is finally here. And I just launched into the whole song. And she's like, what is happening?
I would do the same thing, even if I did know.
I didn't mean to set her up. I was having a legitimate conversation about web development. And then when she said those lines, I'm like, I had to. I just had to. So,
controversial opinion, I still like that theme song.
Me too. And if you're listening to this episode, I'm sorry to interrupt your web development talk. So yeah, Picard Season 2, March 3rd. Strange New Worlds Season 1, Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. You and I are going to be reviewing both. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, we will be. Oh man, my mother texted me yesterday. Have you watched Picard? I'm like, yep, I watched it when it aired. I don't know how she's watching it, whatever. What made her start watching it, but they started watching it. And I'm like, careful about episode 5, the Stardust City Rag. The first 5 minutes, just don't watch.
Oh, yeah.
That's the each of I thing. Oh.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, we went to grade school and high school together. We're still friends. We were the Trekkies in school together 30 years ago. and she just got Paramount Plus for the first time. And I asked her, where are you going to start? And she said Picard. I'm like, you know what? That's great. Even though Discovery aired first, if you grew up with TNG, you can go right into Picard. There's no need to watch Discovery. There's no overlap. I just recommended that she watch season 2, episode 6 of Short Treks, Children of Mars. That's the only thing I said that she should watch first. You don't have to, but and she was like, wait, I should watch just season 2, episode 6 of a show? And I was like, yeah, it's an anthology series. Usually it ties into Discovery. This one ties into Picard. You'll be fine.
Cool.
So I'm eager to hear what she thinks of it. So we have Picard, we have Strange New Worlds, and also just reported this week is a 4th Star Trek movie starring Christopher Pine and crew in the Kelvin universe.
At least they're in talks. Is it for sure thing again?
Well, I think this is so like maybe a year or more ago, Paramount announced the date for a new Star Trek movie, but we had no idea what it was going to be about or who was going to be in it. So I think that is Star Trek 4, originally scheduled for June 9th, 2023. And I missed the memo apparently 3 months ago. They pushed that back to December 22nd, 2023, a year and a half from now.
That still seems pretty quick to me.
Well, they're hoping to start filming this year.
I mean, I'm surprised that they got through, because there was a bunch of talk about money and negotiations and Quentin Tarantino's idea for a foot-based Star Trek movie. That's my interpretation. But and those talks had fallen through, so I was surprised to see that all of a sudden this is a for sure thing now.
Well, I think part of the reason it fell through is because Chris Hemsworth, who before he was Thor was Kirk's father in the original film back in 2009, was supposed to somehow come back for the next movie via time travel. And I guess that has definitely fallen through because, like I said, since then, he's been Thor. And he makes more money now.
How many years I did not know he was in Star Trek because I just didn't know who he was back then.
Right. But now everybody knows him as Thor. And for Thor to show up in a Star Trek movie is going to cost a lot more.
Tiberius, the terrible name.
Well, so I don't think he's going to be in it, but that doesn't mean that they can't make a movie.
Right. Well, whenever that happens, I'll be excited to watch it and talk about it.
Speaking of being excited to talk about things, I understand that nonetheless, you finished the first 10 episodes of Prodigy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad Dahl isn't being an annoying little kid. He has the first 98% of the season so far. He's one of the main reasons I hate that show.
Yeah, and as Tiffany and I discussed on our review, I think he had to start where he was to get him to where he is, and maybe that was exaggerated, but it is a kid show.
Yeah, maybe kids really like annoying.
Well, maybe kids just don't understand subtlety.
Oh, God, I hate that kid.
I mean, as somebody who's child-free by choice, I have uttered that sentence many a time.
Take Dahl out, and I'm all for the show.
I'll see if I can put out a hit on him.
Don't do that. I'm the kid.
Okay. Doesn't matter how annoying they are, we can't get rid of kids.
No, but I did like that they got the little Starfleet uniforms on it. It was, Starfleet uniforms, and did the little thing, got one over on Dad. Or clone Dad.
Yeah, yet another iteration of Starfleet uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
My gosh.
So, but yeah, that's about all I put the show on when I was like playing City Skylines or something else, and so I didn't have to pay too close attention, which made it better.
Well, there is still another half of that season to come. I don't know when it's going to air. You and I were talking before this show about maybe it's going to appear on Nickelodeon instead of Paramount Plus.
I don't know, and honestly, I haven't looked it up, but it shows up a lot.
Yeah, with so much Star Trek between now and then, I'm not champing at the bit. Not because I don't like the show. That may be your reason. But just because it's not like we're going to be in a drought until then.
Yeah. And this is not me telling anyone else that they should not like the show. It's just a me thing, and I'm not saying it's not Star Trek. It is Star Trek.
Which Star Treks are real Star Trek? All of them. Even the ones you don't like, especially the ones you don't like. So, all right. Well, then, until next time.
Why am I surprised with this every time? Let's go.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on iTunes and keep your hailing frequencies open by following us on Twitter at TransporterLock or subscribing to our podcast and email newsletter at transporterlock.com.
Yeah. Hold on just a second. I have a dog.
I hear.
Yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't. So, hold on. Let me bless you.
Mhm.
I'm going to remove him from the room. Just a moment.
Okay.
Here, Biscuit.
Happy puppy.
Hello.
Hi, happy puppy.
He is. His name is Biscuit, but it really should be Velcro. He is on me all the time. I like him, but he and his sister just went outside, so they're going to romp around for a bit.